Hello and welcome to Tammy's Table. I love that little intro. It makes me like vibe a little bit. So Brian, thank you for that, and so Liberty. Um, hey, I'm excited that you're here today. I want you to think about the last time you went to a party or you were in a gathering. Where does everybody end up? Everybody ends up in the kitchen around the table, talking about their struggles and talking about their success, and you're learning from elders, um, and you're learning from each other. And that's what I want the vibe of Tammy's Table to be. So I'm super happy that you're here. But I'm even more excited about my guest today. Um, his name is Doug CROWE. Doug is a brand specialist. He's a publisher. He's an author. But more importantly, he's just a great dude. So I met him. I'm going to tell you how we met because it's bananas. Um, I went to India with my daughter, and it's like a couple of years ago now, so that we can go speak in front of 700,000 people. And most of the trip was a complete disaster, except I got to meet people like Doug. Um, so we had a lot of time to rap and get to know each other. Um, you were one of the best parts of the trip because the rest was bananas. So I'm excited to have you here today. And I listen, I can tell you right now, I know this is not going to be like your last trip here. Um, but when I met you, I thought you were like fascinating. I just thought you were like super smart and you had different perspective on things. So what's funny is when I asked you to come on to the podcast, I said, so the podcast is about resilience.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? And you sent me like six topics. None of them really had to do with resilience, except for one. Um, but I chose, uh, I said, let's talk about why alpha men are more beta than they think.
Hmm.
And maybe I did that because I'm in the throes of dating, like I'm
Yeah.
out there in the world. But listen, before you get started, I got to tell you, I looked up like what an alpha male
Hmm.
is, to level set. Alpha male, the dominant male animal in a particular group.
Hmm.
Uh, a man tending to assume a dominant or domineering role in
Hmm.
social or professional situations. Two alpha males constantly competing to be the best.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I've been involved with all of that. I have history with all of that. But I wanted to ask you, like, so why did you come up with that topic? And hi.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for having me on. Number one, it's a great pleasure to be with you today. The topic is near and dear to my heart because as I've gone through life and had my share of relationships, I've noticed a bunch of trends, and I was participating in some of these trends, and some I just observed. But I'm very fascinated with the idea of alpha men, and I've watched some women that fall into the wrong relationships. They go for the bad boy because he's alpha, he's strong, he went out and killed mastodons, and that kind of energy was like attractive to people. And the challenge I've seen is that then they become so dominant, so domineering, they don't want to give the female partner any power or authority in her own realm. And so the ones I've seen that just make me laugh, like, oh, they seem to date or marry women who are not their equal, who are actually, and that's the beginnings of this make sense, right? Because I want to have a leader, that makes sense, and the guy to protect me and can go and bring food to the table, whatnot. But at a certain point, society evolves, and we don't. It just there's a striking separation of what I call false alpha and a true alpha, because a false alpha is dominant above all else, and this is my role. I lead on everything. And a true alpha is like, I lead on some things and you can lead on some things. And I've talked to so many women like yourself, Tammy, who are smart, super successful. And well, you don't want to be with some beta guy because then you're in charge of everything. And that can be tiring. You got to still, retain femininity in some areas. And, it's like there's this shift I've seen. And it's hard. I'm guessing what I'm seeing is like hard to find somebody who can lead, be strong, but also step aside when it's not his turn.
Yeah, man, that is so true. It's
Yeah.
so true. And I was just telling before we got on the air, I was
Yeah.
talking about swiping left. I'm like, um, my experience has it's been rough. So I come from a long line of like strong women.
Hmm.
My grandmothers were both amazing.
Yeah.
My mom is amazing. Um, they didn't put up with anything from anybody.
Hmm.
Um, but that definitely presents a challenge, like in a
Absolutely.
relationship.
Yep. Hmm.
Uh, quick story. I was dating this guy that was coming to my town where I've been living for 27 years, and he insisted on picking the restaurant that we were going out.
Okay.
I was like, "You don't even live here. Why would you presume to pick the restaurant?" And the restaurant sucked. The food was terrible, the service was terrible. But it was really important for him to be in charge of
Yeah.
everything. Sound familiar? Feel familiar?
Um, Not to me, no. I I've always wanted to balance a little bit, and I like science. I'm a nerd, right? I like the anthropology and the social psychology of things, and I'm looking at sayings that we have, like if you're not the lead dog, their view is the same, right? You're looking at someone's rear end. Or the other one that I laugh about is that a couple's yoked together. The couples that's yoked together, they do everything equal and they're compatible. Yeah, they're being driven by a guy with a whip behind them. There's no such thing as being yoked together evenly on everything. That's just
Right.
not there's hierarchies in nature, and we're part of that. And if you don't respect the hierarchy, you're going to get messed up. So yeah, the balance of power though is interesting. I look at lions, right? I mean, female lions do all the hunting. The guys just sit around, look cool, and they go make more lions. That's all they do. And it's very very similar to a lot of moms I know, right? I got a couple of friends who the mom is full-time employed and raising a family, and the guy's, not. So
Yeah.
it's hard because I know that the woman wants to have a man who's strong, and if he's not, it's frustrating. And if he's too strong, it's disempowering. So it's that
So
balance that I
true.
think most strong women like yourself are looking for. Is like, hey, I want you to lead on some things, but don't forget, I'm not just a wallflower. I'm not just your little decoration. I've got
Yeah.
a brain, smarts, and when it comes to this, and in my case, my wife is definitely the leader of a lot of things in our household, but not everything. And we have our lanes. It's like, no, this is sales and marketing. Doug, you lead, right? If it's operations and numbers, she's a CPA. That's your domain. I don't even presume to get involved with that. Just go ahead and lead on it. So it's nice to have that, to know your lane, I guess, is the best thing with well, I'll call the true alpha, where I can lead on some things, but not everything.
That's so funny. I was literally about to talk about the lanes.
Yeah.
I got lanes. My lane is the kitchen. Get out
Yeah.
the kitchen. Don't be in the
Mhm.
kitchen when I'm in the kitchen. Like, I love to cook.
Yeah.
Um, my lane is my kids,
Uh-huh.
so don't. But by the way, if my
Yeah.
car is broken down, get out there and figure out what's wrong with my car.
That's right. That's
That
right.
should not be all of my job.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where I'm at in my life right now. Is like,
I think it's
I
very
need
fair,
to lead
right?
everything. Just
Hey,
don't
listen,
want to.
yeah, and you mentioned before about the whole the online dating world, and people are saying either lying or saying exactly what they want, and either times you're like can roll your eyes on some of these things, and that's okay. You mentioned the one guy, hey, I'm looking for a woman who wears a dress every day and cooks every day, and I'm looking for a homemaker. That's great. Go for that, right? If he wants to have Susie Homemaker and be that type of alpha male, at least you don't have to swipe right. You can go, oh no, it's not for me. I need someone who can balance the power a little bit. So to each his
Yeah.
own. But for strong women, I'm telling you, you can't go the beta guys. And finding a guy who will give you your own lane, plus, you know, make sure he has got a few of his own. It takes some deep conversations to make sure that they understand that.
All right. So you're
Yeah.
a guy.
Yeah.
I'm on the hunt. Like,
Well, that's the
what's
first part. Okay, so you want dating advice, right, Tammy?
your?
Um,
Yeah.
Women who are hunting, gosh,
Okay, wait. Let
not
me hold
attractive.
on before you start.
All right.
I'm not really on the hunt. Like, I would.
Yeah.
I don't need a man, but it would nice to be. It would nice to have a man.
Okay.
that's a unique balance. Like, I'm not looking for somebody to pay my bills. I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
looking
right,
for any of that. Like, but it would be nice to like have somebody to go out with every now and then or go to a
right,
concert.
right. Well, you know this from, your experience and sales and business, whatnot. It's like you never, if you are like, I'm not saying you are, right? I'm saying if someone's like needy and pushy, it's unattractive. And
Mhm.
women definitely, you have the bulk of the power. You already know this. This is a fact, and everyone who understands this can attest to it. Like, listen, you
From the
don't have
waist
to
down.
hunt. All you gotta do is, hi, I'm Tammy. Oh yeah, I mean, you're attractive, you're smart. I mean, you can attract people. Your job is to put the filter on and then do the different filters at the right time. The base filters like, attractiveness or intelligence or attitude. You can swipe or you can do a quick call. I remember when I was dating before I got married, I went on a date once with somebody. I was just, chit chatting on the app. And within like 5 minutes, like, let's just go ahead and meet. I'm like, when? Because how about right now? Like, it's 11 o'clock at night. That's okay. Let's go meet. This is her. Let's go meet in a parking lot. We'll know within a minute or two if we're compatible. And I'm
Whoa,
thinking, I might get killed, but it'd be interesting, right? Like, meet in a parking lot at 11 o'clock at night off an app.
it'd be a good story.
It's a fascinating story because we got out, met in this parking lot, got out of our cars and chatted, leaning against our hoods.
Oh, wait, you went to the parking
Oh,
lot?
yeah. I'm
Are you
adventurous, right?
crazy?
Yeah. So I go to the parking lot. We chatted for no more than 120 seconds. And she says, yeah, this isn't right. I'm like, okay. We saved so much time and BS by
Yeah.
just saying, listen, are we compatible? I don't know this app because people lie and put, pictures up from 1984. Let's go ahead and just meet real quick. And we did, and like, it wasn't compatible. Okay, good. Let's go. Move on. It was so refreshing to be expedient and thorough. As normally it's one or the other. So we got to do both.
Oh
So I'm
my
not
god.
suggesting you go
I
meet people
can't
11
believe
o'clock at night, Tammy. I'm just saying that,
I
you know,
can't. First of all, don't go meet strangers in the middle of the night. But I went and met this guy.
yeah.
Okay, this I'm gonna tell you this quick story, and you can tell me how stupid I am. So I picked this like awesome restaurant in
Hmm.
town where I live. Beautiful, like very chic and very like shishi.
Yeah.
And I walk in, and there's one guy sitting at the bar with a red flannel shirt on.
Hmm.
I was like, "Are you so and so?" And he said yes. And I was like, "Oh my god, we're done right now." Like, just the fact that you showed up in a red flannel shirt
Maybe he
to
didn't know the restaurant was fancy.
I sent him the link, man. I sent him the link. He
And
could have
so how
gone
did
in.
how'd the conversation go? I'm curious about this. Did you
Okay, so the conversation was pretty short and sweet. I was like, "So, did you look at the link?" And he was like, yeah, I looked at the link." And I said, "So you looked at the link and somehow that became a red flannel shirt? Like that was your wardrobe choice?" Because when I say it's like super fancy, it's like fancy.
yeah,
But we're just meeting for cocktails.
right?
So, oh my god, this is so crazy. I ended up telling my kids, and they were like, "Oh my god, mom." So I had a conference call with my brothers, and I said to him, I was like, "I can go sit in the car and do the call, and you could just wait here." And he said, "No, let's like I'm gonna go to this other place, and you can meet me there when you're done." Okay. So we get to the other place, and he had called his best friend to come meet him. So I show up, and he's like engaged in a conversation with his boy, like watching basketball. I was like, "Did you think I wasn't gonna come?" And he said, "No, I figured you were gonna show up. You seem like that kind of person."
Yeah,
So I was like, I gotta like I ended up going to the bathroom to like get my courage up, and I came
yeah.
out. I was like, "I'm not at all attracted to you. Like there is nothing here between us." So I had a glass of wine. He was
Mm.
like to the bartender, "She could pay for her own wine, and you could sit here by yourself and drink it." And he left.
That's okay. Yeah, you were being honest, he's being honest. Like, okay, that's just
Is that an alpha male or is that a beta
it's
or is
no,
that
it's just not. You couldn't even tell at that point because you did the first screening process was, is there a shred of compatibility, right? If there's something there, you might not click right away, but at least there's something in common you could chit chat about. And it was like a, dead on arrival. It's like, nah, this is, if
I
a
was like,
person doesn't
oh
have the
man.
take it the thing generationally too, it's weird, Tammy, because, I'm 63, and it's like, well, I'm used to like, I would have shown up and, been prepared and, I would have bought the drink regardless. I mean, that's a true alpha doesn't, if you get, if you get hung up on a $15-20 drink, um, yeah, that's to me, that's just, you
I was
cheap
like, well,
ass.
it's a good story. It's a good
It's a
story.
good story. And
Um,
it's fine. But yeah, yeah, so the a true guy would at least be gracious and if there's no compatibility, you're polite at least, so I don't know.
I just love the fact he was like, you're gonna drink that by yourself and left. And the bartender was like, whoa. I was
Yeah.
like, it's fine. I will
That's
sit here by myself.
that's kind of what you wanted.
Yeah. So Doug,
What
tell
you all
me
wanted.
like, why are alpha men more beta than they think?
Because they think if they're strong and protective and they can dominate, that's the top of the heap. They're the silverback of the tribe. But as a human being, it's not true because if I can't mention names here, but I know a couple of my friends who are in serious relationships with women, and they're brilliant, fun guys, but they get intimidated by a woman who is their equal. They have to have somebody who is of lower intelligence, attitude, or something because it makes them feel like they're in charge. Like and the other part about, I mean, think about like the guys who go for the eye candy, right? Arm candy. I want the hot chick. I don't care how smart she is. I just want to show off that I got the hot chick. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's what you want. At least you're clear about it. But someday she'll be 60 or 70. What are you going to do then? Oh, I'm going to go get somebody else. Okay, at least you're clear about it. But a true alpha is going to, in my opinion, is going to, want a attractive person for the long haul. To somebody they can do things with, not just show off. And I actually am sapiosexual, right? I am attracted to intelligence. It's much more interesting to me. And if you break it down like, I don't know, by the math, this is where it doesn't go G-rated, okay? But if you're focusing just on sexual compatibility, you're focusing on something which at the very best is 3-5 hours a week of your life. After that, what else are you going to do? You're going to do other things. You're going to talk. You're going to eat. You're going to go travel. You're going to do a lot of things. So if you're not compatible at those other areas, you're missing out. I remember reading online, one of the relationship guys that I follow posted this great question. And it was this: if for any reason, either medical, social, age, whatever, the sex was gone from your relationship, would you still be with that person?
That's a great question.
Especially if you ask it early and any age wise, right? Because when you're in your, you know, 30s, 40s, 50s, you're like, there's an area of relationships called limerence where like you're tingling and you're like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And you get excited. There's chemistry going on, there's sexuality going on. And then everybody experiences, okay, after a year or two, it tends to fade, right? So you have to rekindle it, do things to keep it going. Yeah, of course. But at the very foundation, people base their foundation of relationship on something which is not permanent. And it's doomed for failure.
Okay,
So
I'm not sure how I feel about that whole thing. I think sex is super important.
it is.
It's the most like intimate thing you could do with somebody.
It
Um,
totally is. Yeah.
which I'm very selective. Like I don't have a lot of sex. But if that were, I can say, like, if there was no sex and no sexual attraction, I don't know if I'd stay with somebody like that.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I meant like if you're in the relationship with someone, you got the sexual chemistry. It's got to be in there, right? You can't be with a romantic partner and not have romance. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that if down the road something happens, what are you going to do?
You're going to agree to have an open relationship.
Okay, that's a good. That's one solution. Yeah.
It's a solution. But for
Yeah.
me, that is like such an intimate part of
Oh yeah.
any relationship. It's like that's where, to me, it's where you feel we can travel, we could do this, we could do
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Um, but there's something about being like super connected
It's the
in
best.
bed
Yeah.
that,
No, don't get
yeah,
me wrong.
I'm sure you're
I'm,
good.
I'm, I've been accused of being hypersexualized many times in my life. So it's important for sure. I'm very lucky with my wife, of course, but when I'm 95, I don't know. Am I still going to be active? I don't
Work
know.
it out, man. Work that out.
Yeah.
Um, it's an interesting concept. I think it's really hard to um be a strong, independent, powerful woman
It
nowadays.
is. It
Um,
is.
yeah, although I do have very traditional values. So I
Yeah.
want the house needs to be clean. The
Right.
kitchen needs to be clean. Hot meal on the table,
Yeah.
every night.
Mm-hmm.
That is my old school
Mm-hmm.
upbringing.
Right.
And when you talk about being at the same level, maybe at the core of that is like how you were raised and what your values are.
Yes. Right. Values are critical. You got to have shared values. Without that, it's very dangerous. And the challenge for smart, successful, especially middle-aged women is that the pool
Oh
shrinks for
damn.
you guys and grows for us. It's
You just
just
called me middle age.
no, I didn't say you.
Damn it.
I said
That
women
sucks.
who are middle-aged, not you, Tammy. You're way younger than that. What I'm saying is that as you get older, more successful as a man, your dating pool opens up, and women
Yeah.
it tends to shrink.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it goes back again on the medical side. Woman's menopause drops off at whatever age it is precipitously, like boom, within a year or two, done. Guys, it's a slow burn down on the testosterone levels. So that's why the ideal age difference is like 15 years difference, because your estrogen drop off and your testosterone drop off will tend to come together a little bit better at that age gap as opposed to the same age or reverse. It gets wonky. So there's hormone therapy, there's things you can do. It's not the end of the world, but it's easier on the sexual compatibility side to date somebody who's a little bit older.
Check you out, Dr. Ruth. Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew you had all this information hidden
I, you know,
inside of
I've I've been through a lot in my life. I'm a big student of everything. I study stuff. I read a lot of books outside of my industry because it fascinates me. So,
So, what's the answer? Like, do
what's
men
the
need to
question?
be like retrained?
You know,
Or like,
there's
yeah, we're in a different era. We're in a whole different, when I met my husband, we were in business school,
yeah.
and now we have online dating. Um, what do you think? How do you teach alpha men to not be alpha all the
Oof.
time?
Well, I've only had one subject. That's my son. I keep telling him the things that I believe in. Like, you've got a couple rules and a bunch of guidelines. The rules are number one, you're never allowed to hit a woman no matter what. It's just off the table. No excuse. She could beat the crap out of you. I don't care. You're not allowed to hit a woman. It's just not available. That's number one. And number two, never. I got this bad advice from my perfect father. Gave me some one piece of bad advice. He said, Doug, there's only two words you need to learn to have a successful marriage. Really, Dad? What are these words? Yes, dear. Yes, dear. That's why I was trained to just say yes and have the woman lead, because my mom was a strong woman. She was strong at home, but my dad was the boss at the office because they worked together. He was a dentist, and he was the leader at the office. She's the leader at home. They had their lanes, but it was only a 5-minute commute. So sometimes there are some challenges. But the idea of like yes, dear, and take a look at on the all the comedies out there that have families. It's always the goofy dad and the smart mom. Society has trained us to go, oh, you're the goofy dad. Yes, dear. Oh, she's mad. Oh, every single joke out there is about, oh yeah, I screwed up. My wife's in charge. All that crap. And it's the worst thing that's happened to us, culturally speaking, is to dumb. Show me any movie out there right now, or in the past 10 years, where there's a balanced family with the dad leading the family.
Yeah,
They're
I probably
assassins.
can't
They're
do that.
loners. They're
Yeah, I
goofy.
watch Modern Family, which I think is so funny, but the dad is like totally goofy.
Phil, yeah, I thought he's a great character.
Phil is amazing.
My good friend Ken Emmons, his real daughter is Lily in that show. So
Oh, are you serious?
I got a chance to meet some of the cast, but yeah, Aubrey is, you know, his her real dad's my best friend.
That's
Um,
pretty.
but yeah, it's socially speaking and media wise, we're being indoctrinated into like beta guys, right? And this whole like, you know, masculine toxicity thing, like, yeah, that's out there, but don't put me in that group. Don't put 80% of my friends in that group. It's the guys that, you know, are the false alphas, really. But the true
That's
ones,
so
how do we
interesting.
go ahead?
Sorry, I'm just like reflecting now
Yeah.
because I'm thinking back to my grandparents. Like my grandmother was crazy smart. She was the first Black woman to graduate from Harvard School of Education
Wow.
with her PhD, and she walked with my dad,
Yeah.
who graduated from law school at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was an engineer,
Mm-hmm.
um, and no, he was completely confident in who he was.
Yep.
And when Nana said, like, I need you to go, blah, 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 he was like, okay. I
Mm-hmm.
think the yes dear that you talked about has taken on a different meaning.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um, Back in the day of like my grandparents, and I look at my relatives, yes dear was like a sign of respect. It wasn't a sign of power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was like, let me give you what you need. So I think maybe that's what we lost, is that piece.
Yeah. I mean, there's the whole you know, oh gosh, you know, sexual revolution, women's empowerment in the 60s, all that stuff was wonderful until the pendulum went so far that not you, okay, but a lot of women, like, you know, they become more masculine than some men I've seen. And I don't need a man ever or man hating. I'm like, you know, we got to propagate the species, right? I mean, you can only take this so far. So
Yeah,
I
I
think that,
hear you. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
well, no, that's a sentence. That's okay.
Yeah, I know. Like I was at some point in my life, I mean, I was raising my kids by myself
Yeah.
for, you know, 18 years,
Hmm.
20 years.
Yep.
So I'm like, I'm good. Like I actually don't need a man.
Right.
I only dated like two guys during that period of time.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, but at some point it's not about like I don't need a man.
Hmm.
I want a man.
Right.
Those are two very different things.
For
Um,
sure. Yeah.
and I think like what you said about your son is like what I've indoctrinated in my son.
Hmm.
I think that's where it starts. Like we just need to
Yep.
raise a different generation of men.
Yes, absolutely. They need to be strong yet respectful. They need to be wise but open to learn. They need to lead but also create other leaders. I mean, everything is a balance. And if you go too far in any pendulum swing for almost anything, it's always bad. So, yeah, raising a generation of men who are respectful, can lead, are strong, but also respect their partner, you know, female partner, then yeah, you got to do both. But the yes
Yeah.
dear thing always bothered me because it did turn me a little bit beta for many, many years. And I sensed it like, wow, why do I never picked a restaurant. Like, whatever you want, honey, whatever you want, whatever you want, whatever you want. And it affected me. And
Hmm.
I'm still learning it, quite frankly, but it's something where you, I guess, yeah, this is what I'd like. I think
Interesting.
I'm not married to this idea, but this is what I'd like. Stand up for yourself if you're not. If you stand up for yourself without listening to other people, that's also bad. So it's a middle way, you know, a little
All
Buddhist.
right, you need to come back on with your wife. I have a million questions for her. Hey, tell me, what are you working on?
Oh
Where
my
can people
gosh.
find you? Tell me everything.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I own a company. I founded a company called Author Your Brand. I was about to say I run it. I don't. My wife runs it because she is the CEO because she's much more organized than me. But our company has been ghostwriting, publishing, and marketing personal brands for people for about 14 years. And we lead on that with a book. We have journalists and ghostwriters and editors and designers, and we talk to CEOs and founders and help them create their book, their legacy book, or their book about their values or their ideas or their business. And it's a very thorough process. We do a lot of research for about a month or so on their topic. We split tests and do polls and focus groups on their cover and title. And after about a month of that, we go into writing book, and it's been a lot of fun. I get to hear the craziest, most interesting stories imaginable. I mean, you were in a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and that's just a really fun topic. So we've been doing the ghostwriting and publishing for a number of years. We're launching our first event coming up. It's an invitation-only event for CEOs, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a TV studio coming in to help us record some stuff on the second day. So we like doing books and personal brands for founders and CEOs. That's what I've been doing for quite a while now. Everybody got to
So
look at off your brand. Look
we
at that.
should be clear, right? We should be clear. These aren't like small time people. Like you've been writing for like CEOs of Fortune,
Yeah,
whatever companies and sports celebrities.
yeah, yeah. We don't,
Wildly.
there's no nice way to say that, but yeah, it's a 5-figure program we do. I don't do like little. I've done a few for friends that do a little short little ebook or whatnot, but for the most part, our clientele are people who've got something going on. They're, people with, 10, 50, $100 million businesses. Yeah.
You're amazing. I think you're like one of the smartest. I've been in marketing like my entire life.
Yeah.
I think you're one of the smartest branding people I've ever met, and you really know how to like cut to the chase to get it done.
Thank you.
Um, okay, so where can we find you?
The business site, Author Your Brand, is authoryourbrand.com, but I've got a special thing if somebody's interested in just getting their idea flushed out. I'm happy to do that for you at no cost. They can go to authoryourbrand.com/go, and we do a whole analysis on your idea. And I look at competing books in your space and show you a bunch of things you can do to make sure that whatever idea you have, I can help you refine it and make it marketable. So it's no charge for that. Go to authoryourbrand.com/go. Happy to hop on a call and talk about your idea.
Awesome. You're
Yeah.
such a show off. Listen, I loved having you on. I'm really interested to talk to you again, maybe
Yeah.
have your wife on so she can give me like the real scoop.
You gotta have better do an hour show and bring her on. She's
Yeah.
got a lot to share about this topic, and she's taught me quite a bit. I was just closing this the other day. We're talking about stuff, and we work from the home, right? So sometimes we're in our pajamas, and we went out for dinner for our anniversary actually the other night. I miss dressing up. Like, yeah, you should do that as often as you want. To your point, she looks hot in sweats, but she also looks good being feminine, and that's what's missing from a lot of women. They tend to be so strong they forget to be feminine. So balance.
Balance.
Yeah.
Everything is balance.
Yeah.
Listen, man, it was great talking to you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom and coming on. And we'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.